talk to her. She reminds me of my mother, how little she is. Tell her I asked about it.
You have to get it louder, Leslie.
Oh, I know, I just bang.
It's not really through.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Fayette County School Corporation School Board of School Trustees business meeting. It's Tuesday, April 11th. We are obviously at Grandview School. And let's all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, since we are at Grandview, it's very fitting that we would have a Grandview presentation.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Grandview. We're so excited to host this evening. I want to thank all my teachers that came out to support their peers and our students as they present today. So today we're going to talk about literacy. It's one of Grandview's goals is to create a culture of literacy, and it's one of my favorite goals because it was born out of a very organic conversation with my school improvement team. And Grandview is working really hard to reintroduce that culture of literacy to students and just that love of reading. And that starts, we're starting in the classroom with some of our instructional pieces, all the way up to all that fun stuff that we do as well. So we're going to kick it off with a little lesson from Miss Maisie Leach, who's a second grader here at Grandview in Mrs. Van Camp's class. So she's going to give you a lesson on some phonics that's happening here at Grandview. Miss Maisie, go ahead.
How many sounds does I have? Show me with your fingers.
Okay. So anybody?
It has four.
Oh my goodness.
I, E, and Y.
Breaking it down.
You stumped them. Very good. We're just warming up now, you guys.
How many sounds does Y have? Show me with your fingers. It has four. Y, F, I, and E.
Yes, I got the if wrong.
Wow.
Wow, very good.
Being educated again.
We're not a very smart bunch.
Yeah, I failed twice.
My first grade teacher would be very proud of me.
Two wrong. 2 out of 2.
How many sounds does U have? Show me with your fingers.
Are we timed? What's the passing grade? I'm gonna go.
I'm doing 3.5.
I know.
It has four.
just say four.
U, and
Very good.
Thank you, Miss Maisie. So that's part of our primary. We're learning we're going beyond, the short and long and learning all of the foundations for reading. And it's we introduced that as early as our kindergarten. So even our kindergarten are learning that all the vowel sounds instead of just that basic short and long. So it's not expected to mastery, but we're moving them along, introducing it and moving them through that. So to kick off the fun stuff that we do around here, I'm going to introduce, many of you know her as our coin collecting lady, our media assistant, Emily Allen.
Here to you guys. Okay, just
I got
simple. Thank you, Mrs. McCann and Maisie. I would also like to welcome you all. This is kind of my home away from home here. One of my most favorite places in the whole entire world. And it is also one of my most favorite times in the whole entire world, which is book fair. If you had told 10-year-old Emily that one day she would be running book fairs, I'm sure she would have been speechless. Which is saying a lot for the girl who had the really great student just talks too much on her report card. However, many years later, I am not speechless, but I am full of gratitude for our Wildcat students, staff, families, alumni, and community members who all understand the importance of literacy. As you can see on your handout, pre-COVID, we averaged between $200 and $300 in student coin donations. After some downtime that was beyond our control, we came back stronger than ever. In April of last year, I posted information on Facebook about our upcoming coin challenge and what the funds were to be used for. My Grandview alum, Wildcat parent, and my big sister Audra decided to share the post with a call to action, and within a few hours we had created quite a stir, and by the end of the week we had raised over $9,300. In addition to our original goal of getting a book in the hand of every student, we were also able to give every teacher $100 to spend at book fair on more relevant high-interest books for their classroom libraries. We have started a new Wonder Book section in our library. Wonder Books are preloaded audiobooks that promote literacy and help bridge the digital divide. We are currently in the process of adding more flexible seating options to our classrooms. Flexible seating not only creates a more collaborative learning environment, but if you have spent any time in a classroom recently, you know that some of our students just always have to be moving. Lastly, we are also working on purchasing reading resources for teachers that align with the Fayette County School Corporation's vision for teaching literacy. We just wrapped up our most recent coin challenge, and I am happy to report that not only did I fill out the appropriate fundraising paperwork this time, but we will once again be able to get a book in the hands of every student here and then some. And while I have the stage, I would feel very regretful if I did not give a shout out to the other wonderful media assistants and media specialist brains who I get to pick on a daily basis. There is Bridget Smith at Eastview, Lucy Templeton at Frazee, Mindy Church at Everton, Caitlin Frazier at Fayette Central, Ann Alcorn at the middle school, and Paul Amora and Kim Giesting at the high school, which between the 8 of us, we have more than 135 years in experience in the schools. So I assure you that your libraries and media centers are in the most wonderful, capable hands. So. Thank you so much, and now I would like to invite Miss Kate Charlton up to fill you in on our upcoming book blast.
Okay, wonderful. So I have a handout for you here. This is actually going home tomorrow. We are launching it tomorrow. We had a staff meeting today after school, training our teachers, getting them excited. So, students here at Grandview Elementary School, they're taking part in what is called a book blast for students to stock up on books in their home libraries. And so what better way to promote literacy in our building than to increase our home libraries? This is our first year participating in the program. Students are going to be raising money through donations to build their book collections. Each student will receive at least one book, even if they're unable to participate. So that's the greatest thing. If they can't participate, they still are earning at least one book. They can earn up to 10 books. And if you look into your treasure maps, you can see grade level, those are the books that they can earn up to 10 books in there. Why now? Why are we doing this in the springtime? Well, Mrs. Allen, she does a great job promoting literacy to our students. She gets books into the hands of our students. And however, summertime's approaching, and we still want them to have that level of learning at home during the summer months. So we figured we'd do a spring launch. That way they'll be ready to go home this summer. Okay, so that's wonderful. The books will be here in a few weeks after we finish the program. Every student will get a package no matter what, if they didn't participate or not. So that's wonderful. Tomorrow, you're probably wondering, how does this work? So the students tomorrow are going to watch a video, short video. They're going to get them all excited about Book Blast, give them the directions and what to do, and then they are going to go home. Their families are going to register their child, and they have to send out an invitation link to at least 10 people.
And if they send that invitation link out to 10 people, they earn prizes and all that great stuff too. But it's also getting money into our hands so we can get books for our students. All donations that are contributed for the books will go to buying books. All the money goes to our students, which is wonderful, right? There are general donations that are accepted. It's through a community contribution link. Mrs. McCann is going to post that on our Grandview Facebook page. So please watch updates. Grandview is going to do a great job of promoting this, and I want the community to see it as well because it's a wonderful program. I want to thank you guys for helping our school and our community. It's all for the kids, right? And that's what we're here. We're here for the kids. We want to boost literacy for them, and what better way to do that than putting them in the books in their hands. So I want to introduce Mrs. Miranda Van Camp. She has another exciting thing that she wants to introduce and tell you about that we're doing here at Grandview.
Okay, well, I do not have anything to pass out. All right, like Miss Charlton said, in addition to the book blast, we're also going to start something that's very exciting tomorrow, and it is the Inchy book vending machine that you might have seen down the hallway. If you have not, I think Mrs. McCann's going to ask you to join her down there towards the end of the meeting. Students can earn gold coins that go specifically into the machine by demonstrating great behavior in the classroom, great behavior out of the classroom, also demonstrating the richer principles that we've been talking about a lot recently. It's going to be at the teacher's discretion when they earn based on the behavior, but also we're going to be giving about 2 or 3 per week, so it's kind of a big deal. It's not something that all students are going to be able to get every week. Once students have the ability to go down and pick out the book that they would like, we're hoping that they'll be able to choose one that is appropriate for them, their level, those sorts of things. We also wanted to guarantee that they would be able to tell us what they read. It's great that we are going to get them books and they're going to be able to take them home, but what are they going to do with them? So we are hoping that they will be able to, grade dependent, let us know what they thought about the book, 5 out of 5 stars. If they didn't like it, make text-to-text connections, those sorts of things. So we are very lucky to have that in our building, and we're hoping that the students will also enjoy that. You can come back up.
I wanted to add a piece of that too, is that the titles that you'll see if you get to walk down after the meeting, the titles that you see, Mrs. Allen did a great job of putting out a Google form to our students, and they chose authors that they liked, topics that they liked. So it's all student-led of the titles and the interest and things that you'll see down there. So we wanted the voice of the students in there because we wanted them to be able to want what's in there. So the students haven't seen it yet. We uncovered it today after school. So tomorrow will be the first day that when it's been a giant cardboard box in a corner, and they had no idea what was behind it. So we're super excited for the reveal tomorrow. But I just want to thank my teachers for helping me out today. We're super excited here at Grandview to be promoting literacy and bringing our families in. Book fair is always huge here at Grandview. It's also coincides with family night, which is Thursday night. I invite you all to stop by. Got the old-fashioned parachute out and playing some space parachute games. So we're going old school, and they'll be shopping in the book fair. But I want to thank my teachers and thank the rest of my staff for showing up tonight. Any questions?
No, but you got 2 kiddos here who get the jump on it. They get to see what's in that.
Yes.
Did you say family night is this Friday night?
This Thursday.
Thursday.
Yeah.
What time is that?
5 to 6:30.
Okay. Thank you.
It's on the sign out back on Grand Avenue.
Oh.
Ma'am, I have a question.
Yeah.
The greatest book that was ever written, Green Eggs and Ham, is not on this list. Is that an oversight?
It totally must be. I'll write them a letter. Chris says, yeah.
Great book.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks to all of you for presenting. Thank you, Maisie, for showing us how much we need to learn.
You did a fantastic job.
You did, young lady. I am humbled.
All right. Our presentation completed. I'd like to seek a motion to approve the agenda as submitted and amended.
I so moved.
Thank you, Ann. Do I hear a second?
I will second that.
Thank you, Chris. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Now's the time for any public comments on agenda items. Seeing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Approval of minutes from the executive session of 3/14/23, the regular business meeting of 3/14/23, and the executive session of 3/22/23. The personnel report, retirements, resignations, leave of absence, etc. The approval of March 2023 claims 64540 to 64760. And lastly, and our favorite part of the consent agenda, the donations. A donation of $2,500 from Dot Foods to the Spartan Athletic Club to be used for Student Athletic Recognition Awards. So I'd like to seek a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Lori. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Jeremy. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Now we'll move on to action items. Personnel report, Mr. Harris.
On the personnel report, this evening, recommending employment under classified staff for Joni Brock, educational assistant at Spartan Learning Center, Audrey Crumpton as a Head Start floating education assistant at Little Spartan, Jessica Durston as custodian at Eastview and the Spartan Learning Center, Rosemary Frazier as custodian at the high school, Kelsey Toller as Head Start nutrition bus assistant at Little Spartan, and Miranda Wright for development pre-K assistant at Little Spartan. Also, requesting authorization to issue to support personnel, bus drivers, substitute teachers, and substitute custodians serving less than 12 months, a letter of intent to reemploy for the 2023-24 school year.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Harris. I'd like to seek a motion to approve the personnel report.
I'll give that motion.
Thank you, Jeremy. A second?
I will second that.
Thank you, Chris. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And again, on to you, Randy. Approval of the construction management with Skillman Corporation.
Okay, last month we had a presentation by Gibraltar, also by Skillman Corporation, that they talked about what they would provide us service-wise as we look at going into these multiple projects, whatever we determine. I know Mr. Collins and I have also met with them on numerous occasions, feel very comfortable with what they can provide, and I'm requesting approval to move forward with working with Skillman Corporation as we go on about this process. And the details kind of the relationship between us is also attached to the back of that.
Thank you very much. Okay, I'd like to seek a motion to approve the construction management agreement with the Skillman Corporation.
I'll give that motion.
Thank you, Jeremy. Do I hear a second?
No second.
Thank you, Ryan. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, the approval of the Head Start cost of living allowance funding for 23-24. Cameron.
Okay, our Head Start program was able to apply for a cost of living allowance of $72,563. These we call COLA funds, and they're to be used for the cost of living increases of 5.6% on all base salaries for certified and non-certified Head Start staff. All Head Start staff are members and employees of the Fayette County School Corporation, and therefore their salaries are determined by the beginning salary schedule and subsequent performance evaluations. COLA funds available from the cost of living increase will be used to meet salaries, fringe benefits, including insurance costs and retirement. The funds will be distributed during the 23-24 budget period beginning July 1st, 2023, and the non-federal share match for this grant is $18,140.
How often do you request a cost of living adjustment, or does Head Start just do that automatically?
They just do that each year, and then the amount changes. So luckily, this year they saw the need that there needed to be increases in wages, so the amount is a lot higher than what has been received in the past.
Okay. Cool. Okay. I would like to seek a motion to approve the Head Start Quality Improvement Funding for the next school year, 23.
I'll make that motion.
Who said that?
Mark.
Oh, Mark. Thank you, Mark.
I'll second.
Thank you, Ann. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you for staying up here. Valerie, and we've now got the Head Start Quality Improvement Funding for 23-24.
Our Head Start program is requesting a funding increase of $37,925 to be used for quality improvements related to building safety, staff salaries and fringes, increasing knowledge and delivery of trauma-informed care services in our classrooms, and replenishment of supplies for the program. These improvements are supported by our program's self-assessment findings as well as the community assessment that were completed earlier this winter, and we discussed and approved those at the last school board meeting. Taking into account our post-pandemic economy, some of the identified needs have become more evident as the program has had to adjust our delivery of services to meet the ever-changing needs of our most vulnerable population. The non-federal share match for this grant is $9,481.
Okay. I'd like to seek a motion to approve the Head Start Quality Improvement Funding for 23-24. Thanks, Ryan. Second? Thank you, Jeremy. Any discussion? All those in favor, signify by raising your hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, now we'll move on to the Education Hall of Fame Selection Committee. Mr. Collins.
Thank you. Board Policy 3.51 states the board shall establish an Educational Hall of Fame Selection Committee made up of 5 people. And this is seeking your approval for the appointment of these members, some of whom will have new 2-year terms and others who will be ending their term this year. So the membership I'm requesting would be Mark Beard, joining us as a board member, Shauna Serqua as a parent, Devin Hornsby as a patron, and Shauna McHenry, who is a teacher here, also, and then myself, so there's a total of 5. Shauna, Devin, and Shauna will complete their 2nd-year term this year. So we, as you may remember, we moved that to the fall, just because everything was really hectic in the end of the year. So it seems to work well doing something in early October or late September. So we'll have that recognition again for those inductees. So,
Great. Thank you for that. I'd like to seek a motion to approve the Education Hall of Fame Selection Committee appointments.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Lori. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Jeremy. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. At this time, persons wishing to make the board aware of suggestions, ideas, and comments may address the board at this time. Comments which involve personnel or students must be discussed in private. Seeing none, we go on to superintendent discussion group reports, principal director reports. Anybody? Director of operations report.
I will make it almost as fast as we've been going tonight. You have the fund summary in front of you. I have 2 things to kind of make notation of this time. If you look at the very bottom balance, you'll notice that at the very end of it, it's lower than what it has been for a little while. Here, kind of at the end of the first quarter, at the end of March, with a couple of things, mainly special education, a little bit with Head Start, and another big chunk with ESSER. We just had a lot of things that we sent in the claims for, so they show up as negatives, and it takes the balance down, and once we get those reimbursements here, it'll pop back up there. So that's the reason for that. The other thing that I wanted to make, it's not part of this, but in my central office career, which is now about 14 years, the last 2 weeks ago or something, had something that I thought, holy cow, never dreamed we'd get back to these days. But as you're aware, when we do the financial reports in January, there's always a part there of interest income for the previous year. This year it was about $65,000, I think, which is about typical. Because of interest rates climbing, while inflation hurts us on one side of things, there's positives on the other. We actually had one bond that we turned in early. We lost 6 months of interest on it. It was on a $2 million bond. We lost about $9,000 approximately by turning it in earlier. By doing that, we were able to turn that into a new bond for an 18-month term of 5.25%. And the difference in that is we lost 9,000, and just in 1 year, not the whole 18 months, but just in a year, it's going to equal about $115,000. In addition to that, for I think the first, well, I know it's the first time since I've been here, but that bond actually came locally from Union Savings and Loan. So it's, the money's here in town somewhere. No, but that was a win-win for all, win for the community, win for Union, win for the school district. And we still have one CD that's on the low side, but it's not nearly as low as the one. But we will see that interest rate amount go way up from what it has been the past 2 years I can speak for, but realistically you could go back probably 12 to 14 years, and it hasn't been nearly what it's going to be. So.
Well, thank you for that, Randy. Okay. Assistant Superintendent report with the packet that
With the packet.
we've all been staring at.
This is especially for Jeremy. He loves packets. Right?
You got pictures in there?
I actually do have a couple pictures. Obviously, this is a large packet and we will not get through all of it this evening, but I wanted to give you some information that you can take with you and kind of read through, and then next month at discussions we can talk a little bit more in detail, but I just want to give you all of it at once. I'm going to highlight a few of the items and then we'll bring this back next month. Before I get started, I do want to let you know that we will start iLearn testing April 17th. The window is open until May 19th, so our K-8 students will be doing iLearn. Our high school students or juniors are doing SAT. They started in March, and then makeups are tomorrow. So they start tomorrow. So we will be entering our standardized testing season. So just FYI on that. What I gave you today is over the since 2019, we've been talking about SEL and restorative practices, and some of you have entered the board since then. And so a lot of times these ongoing discussions are a little bit difficult for people just coming to the board. So what I kind of did was just summarize where we've been and where we're going. And I met with Scott and I met with Leslie a while back to talk about the needs that our teachers are facing day in and day out with the behaviors and the things that kids are bringing to the table that they haven't brought in the past.
And that was just because I asked.
Yeah, she just asked for some information.
Yeah. And I thought it would be good for everybody to see.
And then after doing it, it was very surprising. We keep a lot of data, but to narrow it down to that lens was pretty telling. So I felt like it was important for you guys to see some of that information. I also wanted to just kind of summarize SEL and restorative practices. A lot of times people think those are two separate things. They are two different approaches, but they work systematically together. And if you do it intentionally, that's when you get the biggest bang for your buck. So a lot of times people say, oh, well, it was SEL, now it's restorative practice. Those are the same types of initiatives working for the same end goal. And I gave you a couple just definitions of what they mean from the school perspective. So then from that, I know as a board member, you probably hear teachers talking about the amount of behaviors and needs that our kids are bringing to school with them on a daily basis. And so as a district, we sit at about 21% special ed. If we tested everyone and we went through that process with everyone, we'd be much higher. We are seeing a tremendous rise in OHI, which is other health impaired. And other health impaired can be kids with anxiety, kids with ODD, which is oppositional defiant disorder. All of those emotional disorders fall into there. And it's fairly easy to be determined eligible in that. And so that number seems to rise as the needs of our kids in that area rise. So just needed you to realize that 21% of our student population are kids with special needs. So almost every classroom teacher is dealing with IEPs and behavioral interventions. Also, I think it's important to recognize that teachers are continuing to see kids experiencing lots of trauma responses. That is just being dysregulated, poor concentration, difficulty staying on task, disruptive behavior, and verbal and physical aggression towards their peers as well as teachers. So I think it's important to recognize what our teachers and staff members are dealing with on a daily basis, and then using that data to determine what we as a district can do to support them as we move forward. So on the second page, 2 years ago, we started keeping counselor and social work data. And you can see this is a full complete year from 2021 to 2022. The blue number at the top is the total number of students that our counselors saw district-wide. So for example, they saw 904 students in the month of January. Then what I did is, go ahead.
Are these school counselors or are these Centerstone Meridian?
These are just our school personnel. We do not keep track
School counselors and the
of
school
what.
social workers?
Yes,
just
we
those
do not
folks.
keep
Okay.
track of Centerstone, Meridian, outside counselors. This
Okay.
is just the people that are on Fayette County's payroll as counselors or social workers.
Thank you.
So they saw 904. Then what we did, there's a lot of categories. If you look in the very back of your packet, you will see what our counselors complete in a Google form each month. It looks like, let's stick it together. Looks like this. You can see that, for example, I put one elementary, middle school, and high school. It'll say the number of students, how many females they saw, how many males, the reason for the meeting, the topic of the meeting. And there's lots of different topics. So what I wanted to do was focus on just the mental health issues. So what I did is desegregated that data down to anger, anxiety, behavioral issues, which obviously can encompass some of those others, bullying, suicidal, self-harm, and depression. And you can see underneath of the total, so out of the 904, 160 of those were behavior issues, 23 were depression, 10 were suicide and self-harm. So we can document that every school, every month. So then what I did for this year is I took the October, November, and December, because I had 2 years of data to look at. And so what I wanted to see is, are our needs changing from year to year now that we're kind of out of COVID? And what are our needs more so this year? And if you look at this chart here at the bottom that says combined,
On page 2.
on page 2, you can see that in October of 21, we saw 622 kids. In October of 22, we saw 865, so that was an addition of 243 more kids the following year. But I think what is interesting is if you look at, in the month of October, we had 19 kids with suicidal or self-harm injuries in 21, and we had 101 kids in October of 22. Depression went from 3 in 21 to 28 in 22. Anxiety stayed the same. Anger went from 23 to 37, and you can see as we move to November, that trend continues to uptick. It does fall a little bit in December, but you have to also recognize we get 2 weeks off there for the holidays, so that data is a little bit skewed. But I want to point out to you is what our teachers are expected to deal with are the suicide, the self-harm, the depression, the anger, and anxiety. These are skill sets that require mental health professionals to support them. And we're asking classroom teachers to deal with this. So we've got to make sure that we're giving them tools in their toolbox and providing them with the resources and the staff to support that. And I think it's very telling when you see that number of suicide and self-harm kids increasing at that rapid rate. So the next page, page 3, I should have numbered them, I apologize. I just wanted to give you an overview of what supports we have in all of our buildings. Our elementaries range from 262 students to 326 students. We have 1 social worker counselor at each building each day. We have reset rooms with success coaches. We also have Centerstone and Meridian that have behavior clinicians, but please remember these people are not therapists. Their skill sets are not therapist skill sets. A lot of them have just bachelor's in sociology, and so they do the best they can, but they are not therapists. And I think sometimes parents think they are. They don't understand why they're not getting the support that they feel they need, but they are just behavioral clinicians. They are not therapists.
Hey Kim, do we have any sense of how many kids in the Fayette County School Corporation are being seen by Centerstone and Meridian and other outside agencies?
It varies. They've had a waiting list, both Meridian and Centerstone, so it's been pretty stagnant in the last year or so. They're not taking any new referrals, so that's pretty telling that they have a lot. They also struggle with staffing, and so when they have turnover or they lose people, then the other people have to pick up that caseload. So I don't have an exact number. I can get that for you.
And to clarify, because I think this is the case, these are children then that are serviced by Meridian and Centerstone. They can be outside of the home, so they become clients.
They become clients.
And they also probably serve a certain population. Is that accurate? Do they take all insurance?
They will meet with anyone, and they will work with private insurance. But they do and can open a case with certain insurances faster. But they do and will see in the school setting. Outside of the school setting, I'm sure you have to have whatever insurance that they accept in their
Right, but a kid, let's say there's a child experiencing some difficulty, unless their parents have signed them up and made them a client at Centerstone and Meridian, they are not referred to those BCs in the school. They're referred to the school
They will talk
council.
to them for a couple of times, but after that, they have to have parental support, and there is an intake form. And
Right. Okay, I just want to make that clear for the public.
Process.
Yeah.
Centerstone has done a good job of making that process a little bit easier for our parents, but it's still a process. Middle school, we have about 500 students, and we will continue to stay at that range. We have, obviously, the teaming concept utilized. We have one counselor, one social worker. We have a reset room with a success coach. And then Connersville High School, we have around 955 students. We currently have 3 counselors, but we do not have a success room or success coach there, a reset room or success coach there. So obviously we need to, as moving forward, we need to put more support there at our high school. The next part of this really is just a timeline for those of you that are new to the board. This has been a topic we've been talking about since 2019 when we rolled out the neuroeducator with SEL. Obviously, then we had COVID, which really slowed us down, but teachers and administrators and those teams hit the road running in 2021. And it just shows the things that they created. We had the reset rooms in all K-6 with success coaches. We have SEL restorative leadership teams as well as building SEL and behavior teams. Spartan Learning Center was kind of created from this timeline. These are the kids that are not always behavior kids. It's just they don't work well in the traditional brick and mortar of the Connersville High School. I think a lot of times alternative schools get a bad rap in the fact that people perceive them as we're going easy on them, or we're babying them, or we're doing things that we should just, they need to follow the rules. But they are a different type of kid, and we're meeting their social and emotional needs. And we have found that when we do that and we can break down some of those walls, we have a lot of success with those kids. They just need a lot more relationship building. They're not as trusting as some of our other kids. But the Spartan Learning Center, I believe, is one of the best things we've done for kids. And I wish we had the funds to do it K-12, because we have elementary kids who have the same needs and the same anxieties that could benefit from that. And that's something that I know we talk about in cabinet all the time, is how can we extend that? And that's something as we go down the road financially, we're going to have to decide where we put our money. Then finally, where we're going from here, 2022-23 research rooms, we're including the middle school. We have a gentleman named Anthony Phillips at the middle school. He is a Berlin basketball player, does a great job with our kiddos. He has really taken, with the help of Kristen Sherman, our restorative facilitator, they've really done a great job of educating the staff and the students at middle school and really understanding that reset room. And we're hoping that that will help us as we start to implement that at the high school level, as those kids move up. Our end goal was what we would like to do is obviously, as I stated earlier, we need to put more support at the high school. The alternative school has helped in supporting some of those kiddos, but there's still 900 kids over there that need some support. And what we would like to do is hire another restorative facilitator. We have Kristen Sherman and Melissa Miller. Melissa Miller does all of the elementaries. Kristen Sherman right now is part-time SLC, part-time middle school. But now that Anthony has kind of done the training, he also has his master's in ed and his bachelor's in psychology, maybe? Psychology or sociology? He's finishing in May. So we're going to kind of shift some things around, and what our goal is to have Kristen work with CHS to at least initiate a reset room with the freshmen because they're used to it. And coming forward to the high school, we would like to carry that reset room with those freshmen and then eventually kind of build it so that all of the kids can have access to it. We will continue to utilize Title IV and ESSER grants to fund this, but as we move out of ESSER next year, we definitely are going to have some discussions about how we continue to support the needs of our kids, because as the data shows, they're not getting any easier, it's getting more and more difficult, and our teachers have to have the support. Then I just gave you a monthly data sheet. We have one for every month for the last 2 years. We can drill down by school, we can drill down by topic. It just gives you an idea. I think even at the elementary, it'll be very eye-opening as to the reasons that some of these kids are needing. You don't think of self-injury and self-harm and suicide at elementary, but I believe the elementary school that I chose, there were 3 in this month. This is just a random month.
Oh, the CMS, yeah.
And then CMS is in the middle, and then high school. And then finally, I just included in the very last 2 pages, this is the PD calendar for Kristen and Melissa Miller of all of the PDs and the building professional developments that they've held this year, just so you guys have an idea of what they're doing, because we just implemented those positions this year. That's a lot of information. Again, it's really, there's a lot more in the packet. I just want to highlight some basic things, and then I encourage you to take it with you in next month's meeting. If you have questions, I'll be happy to answer them. If in the meantime, if there's something you want more data, you'll email me so I can have it. Because I have a lot of data, I love data, but I don't always bring it with me. Okay, thank you.
Kim, I see on here that they want to bring Challenge Day to the staff.
Yes.
I know that's quite, I did it last year, it's fantastic. It's quite an expensive procedure. Are we seeking grant money for that and local support like we did last year?
Right now we're in the process of trying to get it on the calendar. It's been very difficult. They're in California, we've called multiple times. But we do believe that they are willing to do it for the staff. So we will invite you. So hopefully one of our back to school meetings will have an opportunity for all the staff to participate in a kind of like modified version.
Okay.
I know CMS is already on the schedule. They will repeat it. Reed is going to help pay for that. We're going to use some ESSER funds, but once we get a date and we get it a for sure go on it, then we will seek some outside grant funding for that as well.
Is the program for the staff significantly different than the one that was?
No, it's just a little bit modified, just for adults.
Yes.
They'll break them into smaller groups. We won't do the whole staff all at once. It'll be like 2 groups. It'll be an hour and a half at a time.
Okay.
But it'll be the same similar type of concept, but just a much more abbreviated version, because at the middle school it was all day.
We had 150 kids in there at the time.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kim.
You're welcome.
Appreciate that information. That's a lot. Superintendent's report.
Thank you. Thank you, Kim, for sharing that. So just so you are aware, we have to continue to find ways to invest. So that restorative facilitator is something we're going to be pursuing. And we have to find ways to support our staff with some of the greatest, it goes K-12, even pre-K every year. And, one child can really take over a classroom. And, they don't prepare us for that in college to deal with the mental health pieces. So that's going to be an investment that we are going to be coming to you with in the future to how can we better support our teachers. Really, it's a 1% of it. I mean, it's a very small percentage of our whole student body, but some kids need more than our teachers can provide them in the classroom. So those are big investments that we're working on. We have to do that to help our teachers and our staff and our building principals. So just want to be aware of that. Wanted to just remind you of a couple of dates. If you're going to the site visit with us on April 19th, we're going to leave at 5 o'clock from the administration building, and we'll visit Loper Elementary in Shelbyville. So I will be your Uber driver on a minibus.
Uh-oh.
I think there may be a teacher in here who I Ubered on the new teacher thing one day, and I violated the law
And hit a tree.
by running across the railroad tracks.
Without opening the...
Without, I did. So. And the transportation director was right behind me. And, you know what you just did? No. So it's hard, easier said than done. And then April 26th will be the next school board work session in the boardroom at 6 p.m. And then that takes us through the end of this month. So we have a lot going on. I sent that to you in your last Friday communication again, but those are two upcoming things here in the next couple of weeks. So then May 3rd, I'll throw that out, 6:30 scholarship night at CHS. That's always a neat time. It's in the auditorium on May 3rd at 6:30 if you're able to attend. So a lot of local organizations and groups are very generous with our kids. So it's always nice. Thank you. And I want to say thank you to Grandview staff. It's a great group of educators and people. And I want to brag on Emily a little because she's in a life-changing career. I don't want to get too far, but you've got some exciting things happening with you professionally too. So just got a great group of people here, great culture. I just want to say thanks to everyone for all the work you do.
And so now it's our time for the good of the cause, but I first want to commend these two young students that have sat through this entire meeting and have really, they look like they're paying attention. I'm sure they're in their heads thinking,
Maisie is wanting to get a hold of Chris here after the meeting to work on some more of these literacy pieces. I can see it in their eyes, right?
So I just want to acknowledge the two of you for, Letty and Maisie, thank you very much for paying attention, and maybe you'll be future school board members. Who knows?
Or better than that, teachers.
Yeah, or teachers. Yeah, well, yes, that's probably a better profession. Actually,
Or you can do both, okay, guys?
I did want to make an announcement that I think is public knowledge. May 15th? Yeah, May 15th. At 6 p.m. at Connersville Middle School Auditorium will be a public meeting. That will be a full-fledged public meeting, not our meeting held in public, where we'll discuss all the information we've received from Gibraltar, which we just want to remind the public, even those who aren't here, that information on their findings from all their studies of all the facilities is on the website. So you can prep yourself if you're coming to the meeting, or I'm sure a lot of that information will be shared, and there will be some Q&A time for people to ask questions and get answers, which is a little different than our format at our public meetings. So we'll get that advertised, but we had thrown out some dates at the last board meeting, and that got changed just because of availability of people to be able to attend. So,
and I think the
location.
high school auditorium will now work for us.
Oh,
okay.
Yes. Okay. That was the other thing, we were trying to find a location. So,
we'll advertise.
Yeah, we'll roll that out and get that advertised. So.
Well, get your information off of Facebook, get it off the school corporation website.
So for the good of the cause, anybody have something they'd like to share tonight?
Nice new sign in front of Frazee.
We did have 4 board members that attended the Consortium of State School Board Associations National Convention. This is a national school board conference. It's the first for this organization, COSBA. So we were able to enjoy lots of different workshops and learn about lots of different things. So that's always good for us because, you know, there's not really an opportunity for us to get CEUs, those continuing ed units. And we need that information so we can learn and grow. So that's really exciting, and we were glad to be able to attend that, and Scott attended as well. There's nothing else.
I'll make that motion to
I
adjourn.
want to invite the board and anybody in the audience to walk down the hallway, Grand Avenue, towards Grand Avenue, and come in and see NG for yourself.
Okay. Thank you. You made the motion, sir?
Yes, I did.
It's his job.
It is. Second?
I'll second.
Jeremy, that was your job. That was your job.
All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed, same sign. Meeting adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.